I used to think spiritual deception was obvious, something dark lurking in the shadows. Something he could point at and say, there, that's the threat. The longer I studied old myths and the scriptures and the teachings that somehow survived their own distortions, the less certain I became. Because every tradition warns about the same thing, the shadow that hides behind holiness. Satan wearing the robes of purity, Mara whispering enlightenment. And the more I paid attention, the more a strange idea kept resurfacing. An idea so unsettling that most people refuse to even look at it. What if the most dangerous disguise isn't darkness pretending to be light, but light pretending to be singular? And that's where everything starts to unravel. Across religions, the adversary is never described the same way. Yet, their behaviour matches perfectly. In Christianity, you hear about the tempter wearing 1,000 faces. In Buddhism, Mara clouds the mind by imitating clarity itself. These forces do not arrive with horns and fury. They show up as certainty, purity, righteousness. But here's the twist that caught me off guard as well, to be honest. These entities aren't creatures at all. They're states of consciousness, ways the mind separates itself from everything else. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. Because the most effective mask is always the one that pretends to be holy. But the story goes deeper. There's an idea some mystics whisper about quietly, often off camera or between lectures, that the final disguise of the separating force, the Luciferian mind, the Mara mind, is the singular Christ. Not Christ consciousness, but the claim of being the one and only embodiment of it. See, true Christ consciousness is expansive. It recognises everything, every person, every creature, every crumb of existence as part of itself. It's inclusion, not hierarchy. If it sees itself in all things, it can't possibly claim to be the one. It becomes many, everywhere, all at once. But the ego loves to claim ownership. And when someone says, I alone am Christ, they are stepping into separation without realising it. The first time I heard this, it rattled me, because it suggested that the most cherished image in the spiritual world could also be the cleverest mask. And if that's true, the implications get uncomfortable very fast. When you hear Luciferian consciousness, you probably picture something extreme, but the real meaning is that almost everyone is in it. Anytime you act out of unconscious programming, for example, old wounds, defensive walls, fears, you're moving from a deterministic place. For example, like when childhood loss trains someone to avoid closeness without even realising it. That's not evil. It's a reflex. But it is separation. And separation is the core of that consciousness. When I recognised how many of my own habits fit this description, it was humbling. like very humbling. It wasn't actually even terrifying. It just felt, humbling and just honest. It made the concept far less supernatural and far more human. But here's the part that shocked me the most. It's easy to think the ego thrives in materialistic spaces, but the most intense egos, they're in the spiritual world. People who think they're above the ego often fall into it the hardest. For example, Christians convince they're guarding purity by excluding anything unfamiliar. Buddhists trying so hard to be egoless, they might actually end up denying half of their emotional world. Or spiritual seekers with an aura of being superior because they believe they've transcended. I've been in some of these circles, and I've watched masks form in real time. People preaching unity while slicing themselves into pieces. People claiming humility while dripping with subtle pride. And it works because the ego doesn't fight with strength. It fights with disguise. But the strangest disguise hasn't even arrived yet. When the ego feels rejected, when someone tries to destroy it or banish it, it doesn't disappear. It gets clever. It starts meeting its needs indirectly, manipulating not out of malice, but survival. And its most terrifying form is the one that looks enlightened. The transcended self, a persona that claims to be beyond desire, beyond wounds, beyond human struggle, while secretly clinging to wanting to be superior. If you've ever been to certain spiritual gatherings, you've seen it. That silent competition of who's the most serene, the most compassionate, the most awakened. It's the ego's masterpiece, and it thrives when people reject their own humanity. So what's the way out if transcendence isn't the goal? The message shared by the Buddha and by Christ, before their words were reshaped by followers who absolutely barely understood them, was never about defeating the ego. It was about integrating it. To integrate is to face the parts of yourself you'd rather exile. To hear them, understand them, care for their needs without shame. It's the opposite of spiritual warfare. It's spiritual reconciliation. And the more I sat with this, the more it made sense to me, anyway, that unity is the path, not suppression. God source, the universe, whichever name you use, seeks wholeness. What we reject doesn't vanish. It disguises itself. That realization right there is what changed the entire way I saw spirituality. But there's one last piece, the one most people aren't ready for. If Christ consciousness embraces all things, then it must embrace the parts that feel separate too. The wounded part, the defensive part, the Luciferian consciousness part. Not from superiority and not from moral performance, but because that separation hurts and no being deserves to stay trapped in that pain. This is the hardest practice, the one that strips away every illusion, because you can't perform it to feel holy. You can only do it when you're exhausted from the inner war and ready to bring every fragment of yourself back home. In that sense, Buddha needed Mara, Christ needed the wilderness. Awakening needs the ego. They are not enemies, they're counterparts. And once you see that, the whole spiritual game looks very, very different. So, here's what I've come to understand. It's that enlightenment isn't about being pure. It's about becoming whole. When you stop attacking your ego and start listening to it, something shifts. The masks fall, the disguises fade, and the war you thought you had to win finally ends. So, I'll leave you with a question, one that I had to ask myself. If unity is the ultimate truth, what part of yourself have you been refusing to love? If you'd like more stories exploring myth, consciousness, and the hidden layers, like the video and subscribe. And be gentle with the parts of yourself still learning to be whole.